You are now tuning in to Reclining at the Table with your host, Janita Knox.
Hey guys, it's me. I just wanted to come on and share a brief message with you all today. That message is you can get more done resting. You can get more done resting. That message dropped into my spirit a couple of days ago. I was sitting at work. Honestly, I really wasn't doing anything. We had a little downtime. I had just finished up some stuff and I was just sitting there waiting. And that just dropped on me. You can get more done resting. When I'm talking about resting, I'm not talking about, sleeping past noon or binge watching on Netflix all day. There's a difference between resting and laziness. I'm not talking about being lazy. I'm talking about resting. So as I was sitting there and I kept pondering, I was like, what does God really mean when he says, enter into my rest? What does it really mean when he says, place your trust in me, rest in me, just rest in me? What does that mean? And so as I was looking and I was researching and I was studying, I found the Hebrew word for rest is nuach. It means to rest, to be quiet, and it's synonymous to Shabbat, which means to cease or to rest. And then the Greek word for rest is anapausis, and it means cessation or refreshment. And so as I was sitting there and I was thinking about that, I thought about the story of Mary and Martha. For those that don't know, Jesus, he entered into the village and Martha invited him into her home. And it was her and her sister and a couple other people. And you can find it in Luke chapter 10, starting with verse 38. They're in her home, and I can imagine that the setup, the scenery of it, as Jesus enters into the house and these people are gathered around him. And then Martha is in the kitchen preparing and probably cooking and getting the dishes out, setting the table, trying to get water and make sure that everybody else is taken care of. She's doing all of this in the kitchen. And then you have Mary. She's just sitting at his feet and she's really listening. All of this is going on around her, Martha in the kitchen. And I'm sure that she could probably hear everything that was going on. But she was so in tune to what Jesus was saying that it didn't even faze her. To be honest, if you read the word, if you read Luke chapter 10, if you read the story of Mary and Martha, Martha gets a little agitated. Not a little, a lot. She gets agitated. She's like, Jesus, don't you see I'm in here? I'm working hard and I'm doing this and I'm doing that and I'm trying to prepare. And my sister Mary is just sitting there. She's just sitting there. She's not doing anything. She's just sitting there. And then Jesus just turns to her and he says, you are troubled by much. You are troubled by much. You have a lot going on. You worry about a lot of things. You're trying too hard. Basically, he's saying you got all of these things going on, but your sister Mary is doing what is needed. See, Martha thought she was doing what was needed. She thought what was needed was her to be in the kitchen, preparing dinner, preparing the table, preparing water, wine, whatever she was doing to serve to the guests, to serve to Jesus. But Jesus turned and said, that's not what's needed at this time. What's needed is what Mary is doing right now, sitting at my feet, listening to what I have to say. It doesn't go into detail after that, but I can imagine that Mary got so much more done because she sat at the feet of Jesus than she would have if she had went in the kitchen to help her sister prepare. A lot of times I know I'm that person that if I see something that needs to be done, I just want to grab hold to it and get it done right then and there. I had to understand that just because you're getting stuff done doesn't mean that you're actually being productive. It's just like trying to fill a basket with a hole in the bottom. You're going and you're getting the water and you're pouring it in, you're getting the water and you're pouring it in, but you're not really making any progress because there's a hole in the bottom. You're not making progress. But then there's a time where you get more done when you rest, because when you sit at the feet of Jesus, he directs and orders your step. He tells you your day-to-day activity. He wants to be a part of your daily lives, not just when you wake up and when you go to sleep, but he wants the part when you wake up, he wants the in-between, and he wants the ending. He wants every part of you. He wants you to be in his presence. He wants to direct that pathway. He wants to direct that time frame. He wants to direct that day that you're going through. He wants to order your steps. And we always ask the Lord, order my steps, order my steps, order my steps. Well, the way that he orders your steps is when you rest in him. when you rest in him. And it takes a lot to just rest. It takes a lot to just rest in the presence of God, because what happens is you realize how much control that you're letting go of when you do that. And the hardest thing for us to do sometimes is to let go, because we feel like we have to have our hands in it. We feel like we have to have it all together. We can't let the ball drop on anything. We have to juggle it all. We can't rely on anybody or anything else to help us out. We always feel like we have to have our hands in it, but that's not enter into God's rest. And sadly enough, he even says in his words that he wants us to enter into his rest, but he says, sadly, a lot of people will not do that. A lot of people will not be able to do that. And I believe that the key reason why is because we are control freaks. Okay, we feel like we have to have that control. What Martha was doing is she was holding on to that control. She was holding on to what she thought was needed, and it actually wasn't doing her any good. It actually was doing her worse off, because she had built up frustration. And Mary, on the other hand, was doing exactly what was needed. And understand this, a lot of times when you enter into God's rest, to other people, it may seem as though you're not really doing anything. To Martha, it looked like Mary wasn't doing anything. She was just sitting. But you get more done resting, because then you're releasing the control of your day, the control of your life, the control of your movements, every part of you. You're releasing it to God for him to use you in the most magnificent way. To be honest, it's the best way to be, because what happens is when you learn to let go and when you learn to let God, and it takes time to do that, because it has to be chipped away at. It has to be chipped away at. There's no way that you just release control in one day. There are going to be many of days that you're going to want to pick that control back up. But you have to always remember, I'm in God's rest. I do more. I get more done when I'm resting. I get more done just resting. I don't have to have control of this. And it's still, till this day, it takes me a minute to just release that. I do it day by day. And it's amazing how the Holy Spirit directs you and alerts you when you're trying to pick that control back up. He immediately alerts you. Once you're in tune and you're connected to him and you're vibing with him, he will let you know. He will alert you when you're trying to pick that control back up, and you immediately have to just go back and say, okay, no, I can't do that, because I'm relying on God. I'm in his presence. I'm in his space. It's me and him. He's guiding, he's directing, he's the driver of this car. He's the captain of this ship. And I can't pick that control back up. I can't pick it back up, because if I pick it back up, then I'm not going to really make any kind of progress. If I pick that control back up, then I'm not going to be able to do what it is that he's asking and he's trying to connect me to do, because I'm trying to dictate my life, and my life is not my own. And whenever I think about entering into God's rest, whenever I just have to do this, I just have to do this, I just have to do this, because if I don't do it, then it's not going to get done. I just feel like I just need to do this. Whenever I feel that way, whenever I get in that state, I just remember Matthew chapter 11, verse 30, where Jesus is talking and he says, "For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." My yoke is easy and my burden is light. What that reminds me of, I'm not going to put this heaviness on you. Doing what I want you to do is not going to be heavy in a sense that we make it. It's not going to take a lot to get it done. The only reason why it may seem heavy or it takes a lot for it to be done is because we try to hold on to control. But once we let it go, he says, my yoke is easy and my burden is light. So whenever you feel like you want to pick up that control, whenever you feel like you want to do something, whenever you feel restless, whenever you feel like there's just so much to be done and so little time, just remember, you get more done resting, and his yoke is easy and his burden is light. Thank you guys for joining me, and I pray that this helps you in some way. Have a great day.
This has been Reclining at the Table. Join us next time with your host, Janita Knox.